I was thinking the whole time, like the note I wrote down was, this is just Dad Jokes the movie.
Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd Podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now for tonight's sponsor. If your vector is hunger, then come on down to Shirley's Steak and Fish restaurant. You might then ask, what is it? It is a building that serves hot fish and steak. And that is important right now since this is a commercial. At Shirley's Steak and Fish, you will surely not be able to get over how good it is. Surely come and let us know how good it is. But please take note. Don't come in and call the owner Shirley. His name's Paul. Shirley's Steak and Fish restaurant, surely a great place to eat. Just don't eat the fish. And the owner's name is Paul. Roger, over and out.
All
His
right.
name's Paul, guys.
I think he likes the movie, John.
I think so.
All right, guys. Today on the podcast, we're on the topic of the month, which is movies that take place on a plane or partially on a plane. Tonight's movie is the 1980 parody movie written and directed by David and Jerry Zucker and Jim Abrams of Naked Gun fame. Starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and features Leslie Nielsen, Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Lorna Patterson. This is a parody of a disaster movie from 1957 called 0 Hour, in which it draws some dialogue and characters. It also draws some elements from the movie Airport 1975. It is known for its visual and verbal puns and slapstick humor. Let's talk about that movie, guys. So what did you think? I'm pretty sure all of you guys have seen this movie already. I'm almost positive of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least I have.
Oh, I've seen it multiple times.
I remember the first time I saw this movie, I was being babysat at a neighbor's house, and they had the Blu-ray of this. And Blu-ray. I meant to say Laserdisc.
I was fixing to say.
They had the Laserdisc of this. And they sat me down in front of it, and we watched it while I played pool at their house. And I've been kind of hooked on this movie ever since. Just loved it, and stuff. So, having this be a part of our podcast, I've wanted to get on here for a while, and I was excited to get it on here, being one of my favorite comedy movies of all time and stuff. What do you guys? What's your guys' opinion on this? You can already kind of hear what my opinion is so far. I mean, do you guys feel similar? Do you guys feel like it's good? What is Airplane to you guys deep down in your heart?
It's a movie about this guy,
I was waiting for the John Darrington.
Well, so
answer,
I like this film. I struggle with some parts of it, but I like it overall. I hadn't seen it, so I watched it 2 years ago. I think was the last time I watched it before watching it this time.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that time 2 years ago, I hadn't seen it for probably 10 years.
Okay.
And I was like, here, my sister was down visiting my younger sister, and it was a Sunday. So, it's our family day and, all that stuff. And I was like, you know what a good Sunday movie is? That's just going to maintain that feeling of family togetherness and just, reverence and all the church stuff. Let's pick Airplane. It's rated PG. It's not going to be bad. It's a funny one. I remember it's comedic. And it's only PG
in the 80s.
Yeah. In the 80s. Yeah. That was what it came down to. It was PG in the 80s.
Where R was damn near X-rated. Yeah. Back
basically. And so by the time we got to autopilot and, blowing the autopilot, that's when I was like, oh, okay.
Did you remember the naked boobs either? The jiggling boobs compared to the Jello part? Or, I mean, those are all family moments that you need to cherish.
I did not remember any of that stuff. I remembered a few of the jokes. I think from the first time I remembered like the the man when they're talking in jive,
Yeah.
the girl and the coffee. I like my men like I like my coffee, and it's just the little boy's face afterwards. Like I remembered a couple of
Black
those
like my
moments,
men. Yeah.
but other than that, like I didn't remember didn't remember the rest.
Well, it's kind of like me in 16 Candles. I remember watching and Footloose. I watched it. I remembered it not being that bad, and I showed it some to my younger kids at the time. Yeah, I did not remember that at the beginning of 16 Candles there was a full naked locker scene, like a girl's shower scene. I'm like, what the? But it's the same thing. It's a PG movie from the 80s, and we're like, okay, moving along. Things like that. Footloose is just a little more racier, a little more language than we thought, to younger kids. But anyway, but yeah, this is the movie that I'd seen enough that I remembered I knew all of it, it's stuff. And it is shocking if you don't remember all of that stuff. But, I have a tendency when I watch it these days, I tend to fast forward past those things. And there's, really just rely on the slapstick parts of it and stuff. And don't get me wrong. And I'm guessing some of the things that you indicated a little before, some of the things you maybe don't like about it is some of the things have not aged well. There's some jokes in there that, racial jokes and things like that have not aged well. But I try to look past that stuff, and move on to the stuff that is actually funny.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily struggle with that. It's like I understand that it's a piece of its time.
It is,
and
absolutely,
in the spirit that it's meant. But
I
where
agree.
I struggle is actually with the pacing of the film.
I am actually shocked on that.
Yeah, I struggle with the pacing towards the end, especially like the build up to the landing scene and all the sweat, like the whole sweating gag is kind of funny, but that whole part of the film, like the climax of the film, like there's some funny parts in there, but to me, I struggle with the pacing at that point. It's like, okay, can we, these gags I don't know if the gags don't land as well, or it just doesn't have the same impact or something for me.
Are you talking about the gags like Leslie Nielsen coming in like a million times, like is like I just want you to let you know, good luck, we're all counting on you type
absolutely.
stuff?
Yeah.
And I really love those. See, that's a matter of fact, that's a scene I think I told you you guys this a long time ago. I know I told Crit, I'm not sure if I 100% told you. My brother was having their first baby. I texted him about every 10 minutes for about 2 hours. I just want to let you know, good luck. We're all counting on you. And he, just, from Airplane. I mean, he knows it's one of his favorite movies too. So, but anyways.
Yeah,
and I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So do you know, here's where I think that might come in. Cause this is one of the movies I know pretty good. A lot of the background stuff of this movie. Like what I said in the beginning in the presentation, this is a direct parody of 0 Hour. And a little bit of Airport 1975. If you go look, there's a ton of scenes that are lifted almost verbatim. They didn't even change the dialogue. And a lot of those scenes, I think towards the end, are because that you're talking about, that pacing comes from them kind of following this almost the identical template. They basically just did it and they added some things, to some of the dialogue to make it a little bit more pingy and, they read it straight. But some of that dialogue is almost exactly verbatim. It's really, really crazy how you can take something like a movie like 0 Hour, which is kind of boring in my opinion. I've seen lots of it, and turn it into a parody like this and just tweak some of the dialogue, even though it's almost the same, and make it, that much funnier. Cause, I mean, they are all mostly doing doing it straight faced, except for there's like one or two scenes they look at the camera. I get it. But, I wonder if some of the pacing did come from that lift directly from 0 Hour, and they owned the rights to 0 Hour. That's how they also were able to kind of lift so much from this dialogue. They just thought it was such a bad movie that they thought they could make something funny out of it. But anyways, I know you guys haven't seen 0 Hour, but I've seen enough of it to wonder if some of that pacing issues come from that a little bit because of how, close they were hanging to that script.
Well, that's the thing I think that is causes this movie to be of its time is I think a lot of this movie has to do with stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s. And therefore, if you don't have that context, it just kind of the parts that
I
would
totally
be
agree.
funny totally fall flat. And like,
And maybe that's why it's
I
funny
never
to me
saw
because
the
of that.
70s, so like I have no like there's not like a direct correlation with what they're doing and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely funny. It's definitely got its moments and stuff like that. But the pacing can be a little off because if you're not if the jokes aren't landing with you, well that's just empty space in the movie, right?
Well, Crit, I lived through the '60s. I mean, I should
Oh,
get all
okay.
this.
You're
I
much
know
older
enough
than I
of.
thought you were.
I didn't. I mean, being born in the late '70s, like I was. I don't. I didn't see. I don't remember any of the '70s. Of course, my first remembrances of about '83 to '84. But I remember. I know enough about the references that still make me. Still make me
It-
chuckle, make me
it,
laugh.
it- it's almost like you need a guide sometimes, like Crit's
Yeah.
saying. Like if they're
Yeah.
not landing, you need that context, and there's nothing in the film that's going to give that context to you.
Well, it's kind of like, and I understand where you guys are coming from because, I showed my kids Ace Ventura not too long ago, and I love that movie. I thought it was great. It's not as funny as I remembered it, guys, and yet it's still funny. Don't get me wrong. I was still laughing at a lot of the slapstick humor and stuff like that in there. But I'm looking behind me on my kids on the couch. They're not laughing at all.
Right.
They don't think it's funny at all. And then when we get done with it, I'm just like, "What'd you think?" It was okay, because and I think it's really what you're saying, Crit. There was so much '90s humor in it, and references like Joe Montana and things like that. They had no idea why that was funny.
I think the only interesting thing for me about watching it this time was kind of thinking about all of the format of Airplane and how all of the TV shows and movies that basically use the same template. I mean, everything from Hot Shots and
Yes.
and stuff like that later to the non sequiturs in like Family Guy, and things like that. Like you could just see the inspiration of Airplane across, all the way up probably till now.
I agree.
But it's it's like watching an old version of something you've seen lots of different things do. If you don't have a direct tie to that movie, like it wasn't a formational movie for me as far as comedy goes, and so therefore I don't have a strong nostalgic kind of bent to it. So it was funny in a way, like, that's kind of clever. It wasn't funny in a like I'm really like just super enjoying myself and I'm lost in the jokes and stuff like that.
And I can see that from that, because it was something that was so to kind of go back to what you said, these guys are the people who did the first movie they did that was similar to this was Kentucky Fried Movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next movie they did was Airplane, and then after that was, I think, eventually I think they did one more and I can't remember what it was. Then they did the Naked Gun movies,
Right,
and stuff like that. And they did start this. They kind of started this genre, and stuff like that. And I kind of lost my train. What's that?
Well, it kind of smacks of what's his name with the producers and Blazing Saddles.
Mel Brooks, yeah.
Mel Brooks. It's kind of sitting in a similar like area.
It is. I mean, if you had to say go back to like who was the original, it was absolutely Mel Brooks, and then these guys kind of took that, and like if you look at it, there wasn't like a Mel
spin. Yeah,
they took their own spin of Mel Brooks, like Blazing Saddles and things like that, and kind of maybe updated it a little bit at that time. I mean, not to our standards now, but then, yeah, and made something out of it, out of nothing. In my opinion, a crappy movie. They, made something that is good, and apparently it was a good. At that time it was well received. I mean, it was a $3.5 million budget, and it made 171 million. Matter of fact, it was the highest rated comedy movie from 1980 until 1984. And you know what beat it? What was the top movie in 1984? Ghostbusters.
Know. Okay.
Ghostbusters was the next comedy movie to beat it out, and it was the top it was number 4 of the 1980 movies. So at the time where these jokes probably hit more, like you're saying, were, a little bit more in the moment, it really did hit. Well, I look back at now, and I know my kids and stuff like that. A lot of people don't understand the references. What I really appreciate about this movie is the humor, and it's the kind of humor that I sometimes like, where just like the Leslie Nielsen thing, at the very end, it's like, hey, good luck, we're all counting on you type thing. It's a lot of humor that goes on where you think it should end, and then it just keeps going and going, and it seems like it gets a little bit funnier because they keep going. Like they have a lot of fun running gags, and like Johnny in the airport. Hey, Johnny, would you like get us some coffee? Would you like to get some coffee? No, thank you. Those kind of running. Those are the things that are like really smart to me.
Oh, because I was thinking the whole time, like the note I wrote down was, this is just Dad Jokes the movie, because everything is just purposefully interpreting something wrong in order to, in a deadpan way to make it funny, which is funny, but to me, it's not funny. Laugh out loud. It's kind of,
it's a good chuckle movie.
Yeah, it's a good chuckle movie for me, at least.
There's only a few parts where I kind of lose it, and it's those parts that stuck with me from the first time I watched it.
For example, like what is
the jive?
Which is it's really funny
in some ways.
Who came up with that? Those guys came up with the Barbara Billingsley, Leave It to Beaver lady. They all came up with that in the moment. I was shocked when I read about that, and how in the moment they were allowed to like create kind of their own little language. And the reason they did that joke was that year the CIA, I guess, had put out like all these like new manuals about languages, and jive was included in the CIA and FBI manuals and how to interpret it if they hear it over like surveillance equipment.
That one, the slapping the lady, when they all line up.
Did you know that's directly from the 0 Hour? They do something very similar, and you wouldn't think it would be, but they just do it more funny in this.
Right. And then now the blowing of the autopilot.
The blowing of the
like that. That one's contextual, because I'm sitting there with my little sister. I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. But yeah, no. So those are the gags that really stand out to me, like that make me get to the laugh out loud stage. Everything else, most everything else is like what Crit said. It's either falls flat because I don't know context, or it's kind of it's chuckle. It's like, oh, that's pretty clever.
I would say that the first time that I with this movie, okay, I've talked to you guys about. I still get probably hate mail, or if I ever got hate mail, it would be that the first time I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I didn't really like it. And there's a contextual thing right there. And I get it, because there's a lot of things that I just didn't understand what the heck was going on. And this is one of those movies that it might benefit also, like I did with that movie, would be to rewatch it with somebody who, knows about it a little bit more, maybe knows the context. Sorry about that. Keep getting a spam caller.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to call you. I'm calling into the show, guys.
Yeah, that made me lose my train of thought. Sorry. Anyways, so yeah, this movie, I'm trying to get back to where my train of thought was, guys. Here, if anybody's listening out there, oh, I was talking about like how, this would benefit a lot. Like if someone who knew the movie watched the movie with you and laughed, because until I watched the movie, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and understood a little bit more of like some of the British jokes and things like that, I truly enjoyed it. And it's truly one of my favorite movies, to this day. But I get from where you guys are coming from with your point of view. And this movie has so many things that I could say are my favorite part. I could go from the Roger Over part when they're taking off to, oh God, I can't even think of all of them. It's like I'm here, I can see them in my head, but yeah, there's so many I can think of that are just, like the I saw a scene. Okay, I gotta let you guys know this. I've seen this movie a lot. Like, I can't even name you how many times I've seen it. And I was watching this time, and I actually saw something I'd never noticed before. And it's the part where the captain is standing at the magazine stand, and the magazine, and it stays on there just long enough. And I didn't realize, I guess I thought it was just magazines. No, if you look at the label down there before, it says, magazines to whack to, or whacking material, I think is what it says on the newsstand. And it's a whole bunch of porno comedies up there. Very small, but you can tell what it is.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh. See, that's what I appreciate about movies like this, is you can watch it 20 years afterwards and you still catch little things in the background that you didn't see. I guess maybe that's why I like
gratuitous nudity. Yeah. That's what we catch in the background, is more nudity.
Oh, shut up. Shut up.
That's what Josh is looking for when he's watching these movies.
John exactly pulled exactly where I was going with all of that. Gratuitous nudity. Find it in every movie you can. No. But that's what I like about the Naked Gun movies too, which are by the same people, is that there's always, I feel like I still am looking for things, and I find things still to this day that, hey, I forgot because I'm old, or hey, I never noticed that before. One of the two. One of the other things I was going to bring up as kind of a fun fact about this movie is, a lot of people don't know this, and you guys probably do. I know you guys well enough that you know some of these things. But Leslie Nielsen, this is his first comedic role. And before this, he was like in, I think the most popular movie was something like This Island Earth or something like that. That one's just blanked on me. What that one exactly is. But actually to this point though, he was an extremely serious actor. And this movie changed the direction of all of his movies in the future. And it actually reinvigorated. He was actually about to give up acting when he got this part, and this reignited his acting career and stuff. So I thought that was really interesting that we almost lost, in my opinion, you know, one of the, golden people of humor. I'm not going to say of all movies and stuff like that, but definitely, I think he's definitely right up there in the, you know, annals of good humor. So anyway, anything else anybody wants to bring up about this movie before we go on? Did you guys say your piece?
No, I only have one more thing, and that's Robert Hayes. Is the first time I ever saw Robert Hayes was not in Airplane. It was in Homeward Bound.
Are you serious?
He plays the dad in Homeward Bound.
Oh, wow.
So that was the first time I ever saw him. And that's why every time I watched Airplane, he felt so familiar, and I couldn't place him for a long time. And it wasn't until I watched Homeward Bound with my little boy, I'm like, wait a second. And had to look up IMDb to verify that I was indeed correct. But yeah, he was in Homeward Bound in '93.
So what do you think about this movie, like in the context of like do you think that it lifted this movie at all, having really good actors and actresses in this movie? Because a lot of these, like I said, some of them were at the end of their career, some at the beginning. I mean, this is right before the beginning of Robert Stack and Unsolved Mysteries. I mean, that's significant, isn't it? It would be to my sister.
Okay.
What's that?
I mean, it has Otto in it, the autopilot.
Yeah.
And Otto, the autopilot, has his own IMDb page, by the way.
And a Facebook page as well.
And a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say, yes, the actors in this film have definitely uplifted it, especially Otto, who literally lifted the plane.
Oh, my goodness. So, that is a horrible dad joke, man.
I mean, that's Airplane in a nutshell. I mean, especially what Crit was saying. It fit really well with Airplane.
Dad jokes, the movie. Oh my goodness, I love it.
But other than that, no, that's all I've got.
We need someone who can pilot this plane and who do not eat the fish. That's what we need right now. Did you guys eat the fish?
Well, that's why the co-pilot and pilot eat different dishes.
That's a real rule, isn't it? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. It's an actual rule. They cannot eat from the same. They can't eat the same dish. From like the same lot or whatever. Like
You just reminded me of one of the like craziest scenes in there too, is the part where the little boy comes up into the screen like, what was up with that captain, dude? Peter Graves. and stuff, and like in Gladiator movies, dude. It's stuff that scene is like blows my mind every single time. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. That's what it does. It's like makes me laugh and uncomfortable. Well, I think that was the point, though. But what I was getting to was that you would never see that ever again. Matter of fact, until you might have saw it up until around 9/11, but I just think that there's kind of some historical thing going on there of kids getting to see the captains in the cockpits that they're flying. That is just nuts to me to think about.
Doesn't happen anymore.
Matter of fact, the stewardesses after takeoff don't even get into the. I don't even think they get in, do they?
No.
It was a more innocent time.
Yeah, much more innocent time. Now those doors stay shut for like. There are rules like when they can and can't open, but yeah, it's locked from the inside. It's very strict, and I don't think they have a bathroom in there. So
yeah, there's got to be some trade-off system or whatever.
Yeah, something.
But anyways, those are the kind of jokes that kind of make that and the Kareem jokes, like how he's not Kareem, but he is. I mean, a lot of those are like jokes from the day, but I guess I've seen this movie so much that, like you guys are saying, I've grown up with it. I understand the context, and that's probably why it's so beloved to me. And that's okay.
That's okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we do this. Some people like it, some people don't, and that's all right. I know there's a lot of movies that you guys love that I've absolutely hated. Mostly of that one guy, that one director, but what's his name again that we just did adaptation? Kaufman. Oh God. And stuff. I have a challenge for you. Find me a Kaufman movie that I actually like.
Yeah.
That's a challenge, man. Yeah, I know. You keep putting me to the challenge. Thank you, Crit. Thank you, John. So, all right, guys. Crit, did you have anything else you wanted to say, or are you about there?
No, that's kind of my only observations was just what uses this format after this came out. So what it inspired, and also that it's about dad jokes, and I'm not a huge dad joke person. Like, I don't like it. Makes me roll my eyes. It doesn't make me laugh out loud. So for me, that type of humor isn't necessarily something that I'm going to go seek out.
Yeah, me either. I can relate. Yeah, here I tell you that like all the time, like how I own Loaded Weapon. Let's see, we already done Loaded Weapon on the podcast.
We already did, yeah.
We still haven't done Naked Guns, but I own all three of them. I mean, I love them. I have all of the hot shots.
Yeah, this is a Josh movie for sure.
This is a Josh movie without a doubt.
It fits your humor. It fits, all that stuff. So yeah, it's no surprise that you love this movie. If it even would have been a surprise, but it wouldn't have been because you've told me before.
I know. You guys know me. You guys know me too well at this point. So, all right, let's go to our reviews then, guys. Since I'm talking, I'll give mine first, and I give this a 9 out of 10.
Only a 9. I'm surprised.
I don't know if it's a perfect movie. I really struggled with giving it a 10 because I'm not sure if it's quite a perfect movie, but it's really close, man.
Okay.
A very high rated comedic movie.
I would not watch this with my mom, especially for the Jello scenes and other scenes that would just be a little awkward to watch with a parental unit in the vicinity. Even now, even though I'm 33 and so probably not.
I wish I hadn't seen it with my mom, but I have. Anyways.
Yeah, and I'll give this, for me, this is a 5 out of 10 just because it's a movie of its time and it doesn't do like anything like terrible as far as movie making and stuff like that. Like it's done well, but it doesn't click with me in a like, this is a really funny movie that I want to go back and watch again. Right.
Right.
If you since you like this movie so much, then you really should like the sequel. The sequel's even better. Have you guys seen the sequel? It's pretty awful.
I think I have. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Oh, William Shatner, the evil man on a space shuttle to the first moon colony. Oh my hell, it's bad.
Yeah.
And then almost shot for shot in a space shuttle of the original airplane.
Yeah.
You can,
I mean,
yeah.
this is the common problem of like nostalgia movies where it's like, remember this? And like, well, if I wasn't born then no. If I wasn't there for it, if I wasn't aware of it as a thing, then no, I'm not. And so it just doesn't click, right?
You're a little closer to my age, and
Yeah.
I thought maybe it would click a little bit more with you. And since we're only a couple years apart, but the one thing that I don't know, for some reason I thought that you would be a little bit more remember a little bit more of the nostalgic parts of this than
I think
I thought you did.
Yeah, I think this Airplane is a movie in 1980 that's nostalgic about the 70s, right? Like all of its humor content comes from 60s and 70s
Disco and
information. Yeah, it's like the whole. I'm sure some people find the tavern that turns into a discotheque that has the disco scene and all that stuff hilarious because that seen Staying Alive, and that was like, this is great, this is such a
I love
great
that
takedown
scene.
of that movie, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like, for me, I'm just like, all right, I understand what it's doing, but I'm not like so invested in the hatred of disco that it's funny to me to see it taken down a peg, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I would say the reason that I'll give you probably one of the reasons why John gives a lot of this why I like this, and it's probably so nostalgic. John always gives his like a lot of his nostalgia films, like it's like when you're homesick from school, right?
Yeah, that's the John story.
Yeah, that's the John story. So mine comes a lot from HBO. My grandparents had just gotten. I mean, it was early '80s. Everybody, because it was so new in the early '80s, had HBO, so I mean, like, okay, in my family, my grandparents.
That's what I'm saying. Is like that's the big difference between us. Yeah,
didn't either, but my dad did that. I'd go to his house every other weekend, and my grandparents did that. I'd go every once in a while and stay at their house. And my aunt did that. I'd go stay with my cousins sometimes. So I'd go to these special places, and they had HBO,
right?
And a lot of these shows were on rerun.
Sure,
that's where Ice Pirates comes from.
Yeah, I mean Fraggle Rock, all that stuff. Like I get it. I didn't have like no interaction with HBO, but Airplane itself wasn't part of my family's kind of movie lore, like putting it on and playing it off and stuff like that. It wasn't something that that us as a family latched onto and was like, we really love watching these types of shows and stuff like that. So I can understand how our being closer in age, but how our outlook on the movie are so different. We just come from different backgrounds.
No, absolutely. And this is a movie that's kind of grown up with me. My family actually latched more onto the Naked Gun movies than they did anything Loaded, and it's more me and my brother than anything.
Right.
But anyway,
yeah, that makes sense. And look, if your fond childhood memories come from Loaded Weapon and Naked Gun and stuff like that, then Airplane, which Genesis created those, essentially, I mean, that's right up your alley. Why wouldn't you like that? It's exactly the same. It has the same formats. So yeah, I totally get it.
Thank you, the Zuckers and Abrams, for this format. Thank you. And Mel Brooks. No. Okay. Let's move on to our next topic, guys. It's been a fun discussion.
Same topic.
Well, what I meant to say is new picks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do new picks. John's got the picks this week, everybody.
I found them. So.
Good.
The first one, Grounded. Second one, Poisoned Skies. Third one, Flies by Awards. So, Grounded, Poisoned Skies, and Flies by Awards.
What are you feeling, Josh?
I was leaning on Poisoned Sky. That kind of
it's definitely the more interesting title.
Yeah. You okay with that one?
I'm okay with that one. We're going with number 2.
Buddy. Okay, let's do number 2, John.
So first one, Grounded, was The Terminal with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I like that movie. Yeah.
Flies by Awards, The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's a good one too.
And your pick, Poison
shit.
Skies, I thought you would get it right off the bat, was Snakes on a Plane.
Yes! It's Snakes on a Plane! It's Snakes on a mother effing plane! I love Snakes on a Plane.
I haven't seen it yet, so that's why I put it on there. I was
Cool.
like, I'm running out of good airplane movies that I wanted to watch. So
I've seen
I'll
it one
throw on
time.
something I haven't seen, because I was going to put on Red Eye, get stabbed in the neck with a pen. But that movie sucks, in my opinion. And we could talk about it for hours. I could talk about it for a while, and there's a couple
I've
other
never
ones
seen
that are
it.
just standards, like Air
I've
Force
seen it.
One. And
Yeah.
but I was
Hey,
like,
don't name all of the plane things because
I'm
I still have to
going
give
to
mine
now.
next week.
Yeah, John, go.
Now I'm going to lay them all out. Let me go through my list. Anything with a plane in it. Let me pull up Google here.
Con Air. No, that was already one of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was last week.
I almost put Snakes on a Plane. Almost. It was almost on my list. And then that's where I put Con Air instead. So,
Yeah, I was like, I need something to shake it up because I'm pretty predictable. So I found Snakes on a Plane.
I am excited to hear. I think you've seen it before, haven't you, Crit? I think we've talked about it.
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah, I thought we had talked about it before.
I don't want to give away my.
Yeah, I have yet
your
to see
feelings.
it, so
yeah.
I'm not going to give away what I think about it either.
Okay.
Shut
good.
up! I already kind of did.
He's like,
I've seen it. I've seen it one time, but you don't know what I thought about it going into it and what I thought exactly afterwards. So
of course not. Yeah.
we can at least talk about that.
And plus, I want to watch it again just to see if maybe my ideas about it change.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's been a couple
'Cause
years since I've seen it.
Yeah. Yep. Same.
So, all right, man. I'm excited about this, and I'm excited to hear about you, say, John, because since you're the only one that hasn't seen it, and I only had seen it recently. So, all right, guys, good podcast. It's nice to do it, and as always, thank you everybody out there for listening and supporting our channel. We've been getting a lot more support for our channel, and we appreciate it. We recently hit 100 subs and stuff. We are cruising now and stuff. People are going to start noticing us now and stuff since we have 100 subs.
Well, you've
So
worked
anyways,
hard at it, Josh. You deserve it.
I appreciate that. I worked damn hard for those 100 subs. So, and as always, everybody, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerds. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.